Hello students, so today we are going to study chemical bonding. So it is one of the most important chapters or concepts in chemistry. So let's start. So first of all we should know that what is a chemical bond, right? So what is a chemical bond? If you have to define that what is a chemical bond, so you can say that a chemical bond is nothing but an association between two atoms, the association between two atoms of same element or the association between two atoms of different element, right? So if you have to define, so you can say that elements. For example, hydrogen molecule is made up of two hydrogen atoms. So the chemical bond is formed between two same elements. And when I talk about HCl, so in HCl there are two different elements, right? So a chemical bond can be made between two same elements or two different elements also, right? So before moving ahead, before going into the detail of this chapter, we should know a rule. That rule is called Octet rule. Octet rule. To understand the fundamental principle of chemical bonding, the basis of chemical bonding, how two atoms of two same elements or different elements can combine, can make a bond, we should know this rule, octet rule. So what is this? Octet rule is a rule that states that every element in a molecule or during the formation of a chemical bond, every element in a molecule or during the formation of a chemical bond must be surrounded by 8 electrons, except hydrogen and helium, because these two elements will be surrounded by 2 electrons only. So for them, doublet rule should be followed. But apart from these two, except these two, every element in a molecule or during the formation of bond, every element must be surrounded by 8 electrons only, right? So to understand the octet rule, we must know how can we write the structures, how can we write the structures of atoms, right? Like for example, if I talk about O2 molecule, oxygen molecule. So oxygen molecule is made up of 2 oxygen atoms. So we should know that how can we show the 2 oxygen atoms. So oxygen atomic number is what? 8, right? Oxygen atomic number is 8. So it means its electronic configuration will be what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. It means in the valence shell, in the second shell, outermost shell, it is having how many? 6 electrons. 6 electrons, right? So we will show like this. To show the chemical bond between oxygen molecule, we have to show the oxygen atoms, 2 oxygen atoms like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because it is having 6 valence electrons, so we will show 6 electrons like this. And here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to remember that here one dot is nothing but 1 electron. Here every dot is representing an electron, right? Okay. So what octet rule says? Octet rule says that every element in a molecule or during the formation of a chemical bond must be surrounded by 8 electrons, right? So see here oxygen is having 6 electrons, here also 6 electrons. So these two oxygen atoms need 2 electrons to satisfy the octet rule, to fulfill the octet rule, right? So if this oxygen atom will take these 2 electrons like this, and this oxygen atom will take these 2 oxygen atoms like this. So this oxygen atom also having 8 electrons around it, and this oxygen atom is also surrounded by 8 electrons. So here the bond formation has been taken place. For example, you should know that here 2 electrons represents one bond. 2 electrons represent one bond. So how many bonds here? 1 and 2. So there are 2 bonds between 2 oxygen atoms in oxygen molecule, right? So you can say that in an oxygen molecule there is a double bond between 2 oxygen atoms, right? Okay, let's take another example. N2, nitrogen molecule. So nitrogen atomic number is what? 7. It means its electronic configuration will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 3, right? So to draw the Lewis dot structure, we should know that here valence electrons are 5 only. So we will show like this. The Lewis dot structure will be like this: 1 nitrogen atom, 1 nitrogen atom. Yes, this structure or this representation is called Lewis dot structure, or you can say representation. Lewis dot structure. This type of structure is called Lewis dot structure or Lewis dot representation, right? So now octet rule says what? That every atom must be surrounded by 8 electrons. So see here, nitrogen is having only 2 and 3, 5 electrons. It means it needs 3 electrons. It needs 3 electrons, and this nitrogen also needs 3 electrons. So what they will do? To form a chemical bond, this nitrogen will share these 3 electrons with it, and this nitrogen atom will also share these 3 electrons like this, right? So now every nitrogen atom is having 8 electrons. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this nitrogen is also having 8 electrons. So octet rule is satisfied here. And I told you that 2 electrons will make one bond, right? So here how many electrons? 2, 4 and 6 electrons. It means 3 bonds. So 6 electrons, therefore 6 electrons will be equal to 3 bonds. So you can draw nitrogen like this, nitrogen molecule. This is your nitrogen molecule, and this is the Lewis dot representation of nitrogen molecule, right? Take another example. You can take any example. For example, CO2, right? CO2. So for CO2 you have to draw carbon here and 1 oxygen here, 1 oxygen here, right? Carbon atomic number is 6. It means 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2, and oxygen atomic number is 8. It means 1s2, its electronic configuration will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. Correct? So here the valence shell, the second shell is having 4 electrons, and here the valence shell is having how many? 2 and 4, 6 electrons. So we will show the 4 electrons around carbon like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And oxygen is having 6 electrons, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every dot is representing an electron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it? Right? So the Lewis dot representation of CO2 will be like this, and to form chemical bond, this carbon will take these 2 electrons like this, and like this. And this is also, this oxygen will take 2 electrons of carbon, and this carbon will take 2 electrons of this oxygen, right? So now see, this oxygen is having also 8 electrons, this oxygen is also having 8 electrons, and this carbon is also surrounded by 8 electrons. So this is the CO2 molecule. So you know that 2 electrons is equal to 1 bond. So here you can show like this. CO2 molecule will be like this. It means in CO2 molecule there are 2 double bonds. 2 double bonds, right? Okay. So this was about the octet rule that says that every element must be surrounded by 8 electrons, but there are some exceptions also. There are some exceptions also. For example, BF3, right? So in BF3, boron atomic number is what? 5. It means 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. And fluorine atomic number is 9. It means 1s2, 2s2 and 2p5. Got it? So the valence shell electrons of boron are 3 electrons, and the valence shell electrons of fluorine are having what? 7 electrons, right? So if we have to show the bond, the structure of BF3, so we'll have to draw like this. Then first of all we should draw the Lewis dot structures, right? So when they will make bond, when boron will make 3 bonds with fluorine, so 1 bond will be here, 1 bond will be here, and 1 bond will be here. Got it? So during the formation of chemical bond, after the formation of chemical bond, you can see that every fluorine atom is surrounded by 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here also 8, here also 8. But this boron atom is surrounded by only 6 electrons. Boron is surrounded by 6 electrons only, right? But octet rule says that every element must be surrounded by 8 electrons. It means here octet rule is failed. This molecule BF3 is not showing the criteria of octet rule. Here boron is not having 8 electrons around it. It means it has incomplete octet. Incomplete octet because it is having only 6 electrons. Got it? Another example also there in which there will be more than 8 electrons. For example, your SF6 molecule. SF6. So sulfur is having how many? 6 electrons in the outermost shell, and fluorine is having 7 electrons. We know that. So we will show like this. SF6 is like this. Right? We know that one bond is made up of how many? 2 electrons now. Right? One bond is 2 electrons. So here see, here how many bonds? 6 bonds. So there it should be, every bond there will be 2 electrons, right? So 6 bonds means how many? 12 electrons, right? But octet rule says that in every molecule or during the formation of molecule in every compound, every element must be surrounded by 8 electrons only. But here sulfur is surrounded by 12 electrons. It means here also octet rule not satisfied. Octet rule not satisfied because it is having what? Expanded octet. It is having expanded octet. In the last example, it was incomplete octet because there were only 6 electrons. Here there are 12 electrons. So it is having expanded octet because more than 8 electrons. When there will be less than 8 electrons, it will be incomplete octet, and when there will be more than 8 electrons, it will be an expanded octet. Okay. So Yes, now we are going to study the chemical bonding, proper chemical bonding. How many types of bonds are there? How many types of chemical bonds are there? So, I told you that chemical bond is nothing but an association of electrons between two atoms, right? So, based upon this association, how many types of bonds are possible? So, based upon this association, there are three types of bonds. First is ionic bond. First is ionic bond. Right here in this bond, complete transfer of electrons takes place. So, for example is NaCl. Most common example is NaCl, right? So NaCl is made up of sodium and chlorine, right? So sodium is having how many electrons? Sodium atomic number is 11, right? It means 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. It means the outermost shell is having only one electron. So we will show like this, one electron, right? And chlorine is having, chlorine atomic number is 17. It means 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. There is a trick of this electronic configuration. School, public school, Delhi public school. Huh? Okay. So you should know all the tricks. So chlorine is having how many? 7 electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, as per the octet rule, sodium, if lose one electron, if it will lose one electron, this will become stable by acquiring a stable octet, 8 electrons, right? And when chlorine atom will take one electron, so it will become 3p6. Again 6 and 2, 8 electrons will be there when it will take one electron. So they will do what? Sodium will give this electron to the chlorine atom, right? So when it will give the electron, it will become like this. Let's show you. So sodium needs to give one electron and chlorine needs to take one electron, right? So when the sodium will give one electron, it will have a positive charge, and chlorine, when it will gain an electron, it will have a negative charge, right? So after the donation and acceptance of electrons, these two atoms are converted into ions, right? So now this positive and negative charge will have a electrostatic force of attraction. Electrostatic force of attraction, right? And this electrostatic force of attraction is nothing but ionic bond. So this is nothing but an ionic bond, right? Got it? Okay. So the second type of bond is called covalent bond. Second type of bond we are having is covalent bond. In the covalent bond, there will be no complete transfer of electrons. There will be mutual sharing of electrons. For example, H2 molecule, hydrogen is having one electron here and this hydrogen is having one electron here. And I told you that except hydrogen and helium, every element must be surrounded by 8 electrons. And hydrogen and helium must be surrounded by 2 electrons. So this hydrogen also need 1 electron. And this hydrogen also need 1 electron to form a hydrogen molecule. So you know that 2 electrons is equal to 1 bond, right? So this is a bond between 2 hydrogen molecules. For example, take another example of chlorine molecule. So chlorine atom is surrounded by 7 electrons. You know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You will show like this. This is the Lewis dot representation of chlorine atom, right? So in order to follow the octet rule, every chlorine atom must be surrounded by 8 electrons, right? So 7 electrons already there. If it will take 1 electron, so 8 electrons will be there, and this will also take this electron to get surrounded by 8 electrons. So here these 2 electrons is making one bond, is equal to one bond. So here also a covalent bond between 2 chlorine atoms, and here the covalent bond between 2 hydrogen atoms. So in the covalent bond there will be mutual sharing of electrons. See, this hydrogen atom is sharing this electron, sharing its electron with this, and this is sharing its electron with this, right? So here